You think you know what reality is, don't you? It feels obvious, solid, stable, the ground beneath your feet, the objects around you, the people you interact with. Everything appears consistent, dependable, real. You wake up each day assuming the world you experience is the world as it actually exists. But let me ask you something simple. What do you really mean when you say something is real? Not what it feels like, not what you've been told. What does real actually mean? Most people never stop to question this. The word feels too basic, too fundamental to doubt. Reality is just there, something you observe, something you move through, something you trust without thinking. And that's exactly where the illusion begins. Because your certainty about reality is not based on understanding. It's based on assumption. Think about how you experience the world. You see colors, shapes, movement. You hear sounds, feel textures, sense distance. It all feels direct, immediate, unquestionable, as if you are interacting with reality itself. But what if you're not? What if everything you experience is only a representation? Right now, your brain is receiving signals. Light hitting your eyes, vibrations reaching your ears, pressure activating your skin. These signals are processed, interpreted, and turned into the experience you call reality. But the signals are not the thing itself. They are just information, and your brain is doing the rest. That means what you experience is not reality as it is. It's reality as it appears to you. That difference may seem small at first, but it changes everything, because it means your certainty is built on something indirect, filtered, constructed. You're not standing outside reality, observing it clearly. You're inside a system that translates it for you, and you've never seen beyond that system. This should make you uncomfortable, because it means the most basic assumption you hold might not be true at all. Consider this. If your brain slightly changed how it processes signals, your entire experience of reality would change with it. Colors could shift, time to feel slower or faster. Objects could appear distorted, and yet it would still feel completely real to you. So which version would be the real one? The one you're experiencing now, or the one you could experience under different conditions? This is where certainty starts to collapse. Because reality is no longer something fixed and obvious. It becomes something dependent on how it is experienced. And you've never experienced it any other way. You've trusted your senses your entire life. Trusted that what you see, hear, and feel corresponds directly to what exists. But those senses are limited. They capture only a tiny fraction of what is actually out there. There are signals you cannot detect, patterns you cannot perceive, processes happening beyond your awareness. So the world you experience is not the full picture. It's a simplified version, a model your brain builds to help you survive. And once you see that, the question changes. It's no longer what is real. It becomes something far more unsettling. How much of what you call reality is actually just your interpretation of it? Now take a closer look at what you actually experience. When you interact with the world around you, it feels like you are directly touching reality. But that feeling is deceptive. Every sight, sound, and sensation you experience is not the thing itself, but a translation your brain creates from limited signals. When you look at an object, light reflects off its surface and enters your eyes. Your brain processes that incoming data and constructs an image you can understand. But you never see the object directly. You see the interpretation. The same is true for sound. Vibrations travel through the air, reach your ears, and are converted into electrical signals. Your brain turns those signals into voices, music, and meaning. Without that interpretation, there would be no sound at all. Even touch works this way. When you feel pressure or temperature, your skin is detecting changes and sending information to your brain. What you experience is not the object itself, but the way your brain represents that interaction. Here is a contrast most people never notice. On one side, your experience feels rich, detailed, and complete. On the other side, the actual signals your brain receives are limited and incomplete. There's a gap between what exists and what you experience. Your brain fills in that gap. It predicts, simplifies, and organizes incoming information into something that makes sense. This is why you can recognize objects instantly, even when the data is unclear or incomplete. You are not seeing reality. You are seeing a useful version of it. Think about color again. There is no color in the external world, in the way you experience it. There are only different wavelengths of light. Your brain converts those wavelengths into colors. What you call reality is already an interpretation, layered on top of raw data. The same applies to space and distance. You feel like objects exist in a clear three-dimensional world, but that sense of space is constructed from visual cues and past experience. Change the input and your sense of space can break down completely. So what you experience as reality is not a direct window into what exists. It is a model your brain builds to help you navigate the world. It is efficient, not accurate in an absolute sense. And this creates a deeper problem. If your entire experience is constructed, then how do you know what is actually out there? How much of what you believe is real is just the result of interpretation? You cannot step outside your own perception to compare it with reality directly. You are always inside the system. That means everything you know about reality is filtered before it reaches you. This is why two people can experience the same situation differently. Their brains process information in slightly different ways. Their realities are similar, but not identical. And once you accept that, the certainty you had at the beginning starts to weaken. Reality is no longer something you simply observe. It becomes something you actively construct. That means the world you trust is not the world as it is, but the world as you perceive it. The difference may be invisible, but it is always there, shaping every moment of your experience. And if your perception can be shaped, influenced, and even manipulated, then your sense of reality is far more fragile than you assumed. Illusions, distortions, and biases reveal that your brain can be wrong while still feeling completely certain. So the next time you say something is real, remember what you are actually relying on, not direct access to reality, but a constructed experience built from limited signals and internal interpretation. And that raises a deeper question. If everything you experience is filtered and constructed, then what does reality look like beyond that filter? And can you ever truly know it all? Or does it remain? Now, things take a turn that most people are not prepared for. Up to this point, it already feels unsettling that your experience of reality is constructed. But what if the problem goes even deeper than that? What if reality itself is not fully defined until it's observed? That idea sounds impossible. Reality should exist independently of you. Whether you look at something or not, it should still be there, fixed and determined. But at the smallest scales of physics, that assumption starts to break down. In certain experiments, particles do not behave like solid objects with fixed positions. Instead, they exist in a range of possibilities, multiple potential states at once. Only when they are measured do they appear to choose a specific outcome. Before observation, they are not in one clear state. After observation, they are. This creates a paradox. If reality is already there, why would observation matter at all? Why would the act of measuring something influence what it becomes? It suggests something deeply counterintuitive, that the observer is not separate from reality, but somehow involved in shaping it. Now be careful here. This does not mean your thoughts magically control the universe, but it does mean that at a fundamental level, the line between observer and observed is not as clear as it seems. Measurement is not passive. It is an interaction. When you observe something, you are not just revealing what was already there. You are participating in a process that brings a specific outcome into existence from a range of possibilities. That should challenge your entire understanding of reality, because it means reality is not simply a fixed stage where events unfold. It is something that becomes more defined through interaction. Think about what that implies. If different measurements can lead to different outcomes, then what is real before any measurement takes place? Is there a single reality waiting to be discovered, or a set of possibilities waiting to be resolved? This is where certainty collapses even further. You can no longer assume that reality is fully determined at all times. Instead, it may exist in a kind of open state, where only interactions bring clarity. And this connects back to your own experience. You already know that your perception shapes how reality appears to you. But now you are seeing that, at deeper levels, interaction itself may shape what reality becomes. So the problem is not just that you perceive reality through a filter. It is that the act of observing might be part of the process that defines reality in the first place. And if that is true, then the idea of a completely objective, observer-independent reality becomes much harder to defend. Because now you are forced to ask a question that has no easy answer. Is reality something that simply exists, or something that is continuously being formed through interaction? And if it is the second, then everything you thought was fixed may be far more fluid than you ever imagined. Now take the next step. If your perception is constructed, and if observation itself plays a role in shaping outcomes, then the idea of reality as something fixed and fully accessible starts to fall apart. So what replaces it? A better way to think about reality is this: not as something you directly experience, but as something your brain models. Your brain is not designed to show you the truth. It is designed to keep you alive. It takes limited, noisy signals and turns them into a stable, useful representation of the world. A model that feels real enough for you to navigate, decide, and survive. This model is incredibly convincing. It gives you a sense of continuity, solidity, and certainty. Objects appear stable. Space feels consistent. Time seems to flow smoothly. But all of that is part of construction. The brain simplifies. It filters out most of the information it receives and focuses only on what matters for survival. It fills in gaps, predicts outcomes, and smooths over inconsistencies. What you experience is not the raw complexity of reality, but a clean, usable version of it. Think about it like this. Imagine reality as something vast, complex, and overwhelming, too detailed to process directly. Your brain builds a simplified interface, like a map. The map is not the territory. It is a reduced version that helps you navigate. And you mistake the map for the territory. That is the core misunderstanding. Because once you accept that your experience is a model, not reality itself, many strange things start to make sense. Illusions are no longer surprising. Biases are expected. Even disagreements between people become easier to understand, because each person is operating from a slightly different model. But this also leads to a deeper realization. You never leave the model. Everything you know, everything you believe, everything you experience happens inside this constructed representation. You do not have direct access to whatever lies beyond it. This does not mean reality does not exist. It means you do not experience it directly. You experience a version of it. A version shaped by your senses, your brain, and your interactions with the world. A version that is useful, but not complete. And this reframes everything. Reality is no longer something you simply observe. It becomes something you interpret. Something you continuously reconstruct, moment by moment, based on incoming signals and internal predictions. So instead of asking what reality is in an absolute sense, you begin asking a different question. What kind of model is your brain building? And how closely does it match whatever is actually out there? Because the gap between those two may be much larger than you ever imagined. And once you see that, the final piece starts to fall into place. Reality is not just something you exist in. It is something you are constantly creating an experience of. Now everything comes together. You started with a simple belief. That reality is something fixed. Something you directly experience. Something that exists exactly as it appears. But step by step, that certainty has been taken apart. Your senses don't show you reality. They give you signals. Your brain doesn't reveal the world. It builds a model. And observation itself may not just uncover reality, but participate in shaping it. So what does that leave you with? A completely different understanding. Reality is not something you simply step into and observe from the outside. It is something you experience from within a system of interpretation, interaction, and limitation. Everything you see, hear, and feel is part of that system. That means when you say something is real, You are not pointing to an absolute truth. You are pointing to an experience that feels consistent. And consistency is not the same as truth. It's just stability within your model. This is a shift most people never make. They assume that because something feels real, it must reflect reality exactly. But what you've seen is that feeling is constructed. It is reliable enough to guide you, but not perfect enough to reveal everything. So reality becomes something more complex, not just a world out there, but a relationship between what exists and how it is experienced, a continuous interaction between the universe and the observer. You are not separate from reality. You are part of the process that defines how it appears. And that changes the question completely. Instead of asking, what is real? You begin asking, how is my experience of reality being formed? Because that is the only version you ever have access to. And once you realize that, something subtle but powerful happens. You stop treating reality as something obvious. You start seeing it as something layered, filtered, and deeply mysterious. The world doesn't become less real. It becomes more complex, more interesting, more uncertain. And maybe that's the most important realization of all. What everyone gets wrong about reality is not just that they misunderstand it. It's that they assume it is simple, when in fact, it is something you are constantly constructing, interpreting, and participating in every moment of your life. And once you truly understand that, you don't just see reality differently. You realize you've never seen it directly at all.